Can other Dynamics GP users or roles also do or have access to that? In this session, we'll look at how to quickly and thoroughly examine the security access for a specific Dynamics GP user or role. Let's call this activity a user audit, which you could also be viewed in the eyes of an auditor as a risk assessment. We'll take a hard look at a user and their role, and what windows they can effectively get into inside Dynamics GP. This is a very important concept because of the golden rule to live by is that if a user can get into a window, they can enter, modify, or delete something in that window. This clearly doesn't apply to inquiry windows, but setup, maintenance, and transaction entry windows are of particular import with respect to a good security model. Imagine discovering that somebody made an entry or a change that royally messed things up in Dynamics GP, or resulted in incorrect financial reporting, or worse, removed important data from the system. This intent may not have been fraudulent or malicious, but real damage and costly interruptions do occur because of improper system access or a loose security model in Dynamics GP. I admit it's really easy and tempting sometimes to hit the easy button and just grant power user role to users instead of going through the motions of a proper setup and testing. But please don't. After encountering a security-related event or mishap, what inevitably happens next is you start to wonder. How do you find out the answers to these questions? Where do you begin? How do we tighten things up and mitigate all of this risk? Remember, fixing GP security is always left to the administrator within the application, but the reporting doesn't have to be. Dynamics GP does not have a native segregation of duties or SOD feature or function. You can look up each user, company, and role combination to start, but there's so much more to it. The standard reports are not the only way to ensure you have configured a good security layout in Dynamics GP. In paper format, they represent endless pages of text-based role and task information. Because of the sheer volume of possibilities, the reports are often lengthy. They frequently run in the hundreds or even thousands of pages. But we could look in smart lists, can't we? Not really. They didn't give us any security-based smart list out of the box. The idea that I wanted to share with you today is how you can use Microsoft Power BI to read the security information and provide a large set of visual and analytical dashboards which provide ongoing confirmation the Dynamics GP application users are appropriately configured. I'll also be showing how Microsoft Teams, paired with the genius of Microsoft Power BI, offers the ability to expose answers to all of your security questions without ever logging into Dynamics GP or running a single GP report. Can other Dynamics GP users or roles also do or have access to that? There's a few ways to answer that question with the Dynamics GP Security Analyzer. Let's start with the distinct listing page. It's usually a good place to start. And let's see which roles are assigned to these users. Under the user slicer on the left, you'll notice we have 20 distinct users, but the object of our investigation today is going to be Jack. So let's run the eraser through the list here and let's grab Jack. You'll notice that Jack's role assignments have been filtered down. You'll see that he's got 2 roles assigned to Jack. The tasks associated with those roles are distinguished on the next column over. And if I deselect the collector role, you'll notice that only the bookkeeper tasks remain. Helps me identify which tasks I may want to dig into. Let's look at card 201. When I select card 201 as a task, you'll notice this has the customer-related maintenance and setup information, something Jack should probably have access to since he really is a bookkeeper as well as a collector. Let's clear that out. Let's select all. And let's save that for next time. After all, we are in Teams and we're going to perform frequent analyses. Let's move on. Look a little bit deeper. Let's go to the setup page. On the setup page, we'll use the user slicer up at the top. We'll clear the list. Again, from the setup window standpoint, Jack has access to these setup windows in the system and company and the module areas. Doesn't look like too high of a risk for me right now. Let's put this back up. Select all. Excellent. Now, let's go over here. In terms of setup windows, we know Jack has access to those setup windows, but who else might have access to those windows as well? If we scroll down and we look at the bookkeeper as a role, you'll notice that we have two users that surface. The first one is actually a test user whose name is bookkeeper to demonstrate the point here, but Jack also shows up. So now you can see who else may also have access. Let's clear this off. Leave this for next time. And let's move on to the maintenance area. The maintenance area exposes windows that Jack may have access to. Let's see what Jack can maintain in our system. Again, we'll use our slicer at the top of the page. And let's focus on the financial area. I noticed that the account maintenance window is exposed for Jack. Jack can also maintain vendors. Looks like he can also perform a number of receivables functions. Let's erase. Let's put that back for next time. Moving on, what kind of damage can Jack do? Let's check the delete and the remove area. You'll notice that I was playing with this earlier and looking at Jack Bauer here, assigned to this role. He doesn't have many windows that he can use for removing data from the system. In terms of reconciliation windows, Jack can run the reconciliation task in a number of places. Primarily here, he can do bank reconciliation. Does a user or role that you audit or need to audit fail, meet, or exceed your expectations? The remedy and modifications need to be made in Dynamics GP. But then you can refresh the Power BI report to ensure the access modifications are complete and thorough, and you aren't exposed to unnecessary risk through excessive permissions among your end users. Finally, let's confirm our module-based segregation of duties with the payables page. Again, from within Microsoft Teams. Upon refreshing, in the users slicer on the right side, we'll clear the users list. Based on Jack's role and task assignments in Dynamics GP Security, this bird's eye view will let you see what he has access to in terms of windows. In reflection upon this user audit, you'll notice he does not have payables setup access, and he doesn't have vendor class setup access, but he does have vendor maintenance. He can do payables transactions. He can also do payment runs and even void posted and paid transactions. GP security does not have to be hard or expensive to understand, analyze, or report on. I hope this segment was helpful and informative. We'd love to hear from you. If you are interested in learning more about the GP Security Analyzer, please visit our website at GraVoc.com, Power BI Solutions. Thank you for your interest in watching today. If you know of anyone who would benefit from knowing about this solution, please forward the link and spread the word. In closing, we hope we get to speak with you, or perhaps work together soon on getting your GP security under control.